Hey, I know, a bit of a cold open for this one. I just wanted to let you know that this video will serve as a light part 2 to my original video, People Are Afraid to Engage with Art. It'd have been way easier to dive into this video if I could post it at the time I wanted originally, but YouTube slammed me with 2 copyright strikes in 2 months. So, hey, better late than never, right? You don't have to watch the original video in order to enjoy this one, but if you want more of an idea of what I'm talking about, definitely check it out when you're finished with this one. Link will be in the description. Now, just listen to the song. This one shot is very unique. The subject that's brought up within it can make it pretty difficult to decide on whether or not analyzing it is even the right thing to do, so it shouldn't be all too surprising to hear that trying to look into what this is, or what the author, Tatsuki Fujimoto's intent with it was, is also pretty hard. So I think the best place to start would be letting you know what I think the story isn't. This is not Fujimoto telling his audience to stop looking into his work. Again, I go much further in depth on this topic in my last video, but Chainsaw Man has a lot of fans who think that the only interpretation you can have of a story is the surface level. And while trying to defend their take, they'll point to Just Listen to the Song as an example as to why you shouldn't look into Fujimoto's work too seriously. And on the surface, that kinda makes sense. Just Listen to the Song is a story about a boy's life that was turned into pure chaos by a video that was originally a love confession, ultimately getting spun into something it wasn't by the internet. And the title, Just Listen to the Song, gives off some fed up energy. A person who's tired of people looking too deep into their art and just wants them to take it for what it is at face value. But that's not what I think this story is about at all. In fact, I think it's the opposite. I think Fujimoto is begging people to look into his work. We see this at the start with the boy actually begging the girl to listen to his song on YouTube. And if that wasn't enough, at the very end, we're outright told that there's a deeper interpretation to both of the song the boy released. It wouldn't make sense for Fujimoto to try and tell people to not look into things, but also emphasize the importance of looking into things by the end of this chapter. So okay, Fujimoto is begging people, but that's not the end of my thesis statement here. I think that Fujimoto is using this one shot to beg people into looking into his work because he's afraid. A fear that I'll be calling the fear of the spectacle for the rest of this video. This fear can encompass many different things, and we'll get to them. But before we dive into the actual story and look at the evidence, we need to take a look at our context clues, aka Fujimoto and his, at the time, upcoming project, Chainsaw Man Part 2. Chainsaw Man is obviously really popular now, but its popularity during Part 1 was insane. That time period from like 2019 to 2021, it felt like you couldn't go anywhere in the manga side of the internet without people either talking about or recommending you read Chainsaw Man. And that hype is very much deserved. Chainsaw Man Part 1 is just one of the best things I have ever read. The characters, the action, the artwork, the story, all of it felt like a fever dream the likes I have never experienced before. But the biggest standout that I want to focus on for this specifically is the pacing. The pacing in Part 1 was such a big deal that the term Chainsaw Man pacing was both a saying and a meme. And I'm still baffled by how Fujimoto, in just a short 97 chapter run, was able to pack in so much character writing that made me look inward at myself, or just made me think about life, made me love almost every person in that story, or just made me feel all three. Now, with Part 2 coming out, Chainsaw Man isn't going to be the same kind of story it was anymore. Obviously, there are plenty of other differences between Parts 1 and 2 of Chainsaw Man. I just want to focus on the pacing for this section, as again, it's arguably the biggest difference between the two. Part 2's pacing is much slower by comparison, and there's not as much action as there was in Part 1. Even more focus is being put on the characters in this iteration, and I think that's gas, but I know some people may not. The art style, while it's still good, unfortunately has taken a noticeable hit in some areas thanks to some assistants no longer being there. It's just different. And with it being so different from what blew up in the first place, I believe that Fujimoto was scared that people would be disappointed in this new version of Chainsaw Man without even giving it a chance. And with that in mind, it's not that hard to see the fear of the spectacle pop up a bunch of times within just listen to the song. The first time we see this fear is at the very beginning. Instead of doing it in a normal way, the boy asks out his crush, the girl, via a song on YouTube. While he doesn't feel confident in properly conveying his thoughts to her, he leaves it up to his song to get the point across. He's stumbling over his words, he's not even able to look at her. You don't need me to tell you that the kid is nervous, right? But while he's afraid of this spectacle, he still puts himself out there because he just wants her to give him a chance. Fast forward the next day, and everyone in class is talking about it. And not in a good way. His classmates all laugh at him. They even ask him if he made this video just for the fun of it all. They didn't even bother to listen to the song and process that this is him seriously pouring his heart out to the girl he loves. They don't bother to actually give him a chance to speak for himself, not through the song or in this scene where they confront him about it. All he's able to utter out in that scene is, huh? Instead, it's the mere idea. The spectacle that one of their classmates would do something like this in the first place is all anyone can focus on, including the girl, who's responsible for sharing around the link and making this a bigger deal than it otherwise would have been. And damn, does this thing become a big deal. This video goes stupid viral. Even the president takes some time out of their day to talk about it. But no matter how big this video gets, one thing always remains the same. And that is, nobody is giving the boy a chance here. His simple confession is now being twisted into something unrecognizable. The spectacle is all people care about now. It's to the point where people are talking about how a random cat in the video symbolizes the sun. Like, bro, what are we even talking about at this point? With this surge of popularity, people want him to make another video just like this one, covering different topics with just as much thought and creativity behind it. Fans are even beginning to bother his family about when he's gonna make another one. So he finally sits down to make another video, and it's globally panned. It didn't live up to expectations, and he disappointed everyone. It's clear that the boy had no intentions of making another one. After all, this was just a confession to the person he loved, and he got rejected horribly. It was only after he was used as a punchline to the caption, "The worst thing she can say is no," that the video became something else. So the question is, why didn't he just delete it when he had the chance? Sure, the ghost girl scared him from deleting it at one point, but he had another opportunity to get rid of it beforehand, but he didn't take it. Why? Intrigue. The video suddenly gained a massive wave of views and people began pointing out different things, starting with the ghost behind his head at a certain timestamp. And even when the video kept getting bigger and bigger and more people kept attributing more and more things to it that had nothing to do with the boy's original purpose in making it, the boy doesn't bash them. He finds all of these ideas and theories that people bring up to be interesting. But the fear of the spectacle plays a role twofold here, because while he finds these things interesting, the fame has just become too much. This is all much bigger than he would have ever anticipated. There are too many eyes on him, and the attention has become overbearing. And that's where the ghost girl makes her presence felt here. Before things really start to take off with the video, the ghost girl warns the boy to not delete it so as to not anger the spirits. Now, she's probably only saying this because a ghost was found in the boy's video, and she's only trying to protect him from some potential paranormal activity stuff from going down. We are not trying to meet Toby, so honestly, she's a real one for that. But she could also be representing a proverbial monkey's paw for the boy, that being the price for fame. He had the opportunity to back out before, but he chose to keep the video up. It's too late. You can't turn back now. Can't get rid of what you done or else you'll be punished by some sort of higher power. She even says how form is emptiness, which is part of a Buddhist belief. In Buddhism, and as always, feel free to correct me down in the comment section below if I get anything wrong here. I am not trying to disrespect your religion. This saying that form is emptiness means that everything that is observable in our world, from our bodies to other subjects around us, all of that is void of inherent or independent existence. Everything in our world is dependent on other things, and thus our independence is an illusion. This world is an illusion. We're all interconnected. We are all affected or changed by the world around us. No one is a permanent, unchanging self or soul. For this story, this could be alluding to the idea of death of the author. Despite the boy's intentions with his work, now that his art is out there in the universe, others can interpret it however they want. There is no one and only way to look at a piece of art after all. As long as you can back up your claim with valid evidence, then your interpretation is also valid. His video is affected and changed by the world around him. Its form is empty. And while all of these different interpretations of said video are interesting to the boy, the fear of the spectacle here is the idea that his vision of the video is being left behind and there's nothing he can do about it. He can't get rid of it, and he can't stop people from putting together their own opinions of the video. He just has to accept that. But that can be a pretty hard pill to swallow. The second fear of the spectacle here is the thought of following up on something as big as the initial video in the first place. I am nothing but a humble content creator on the internet. I have no idea what it is like to be in the shoes of a massively successful author like Fujimoto, but still, I can relate to this feeling a lot. Whenever I have a video get blessed by the YouTube algorithm and ends up being really successful, kind of like my last video, which you should definitely check out if you haven't already. Link in the description. Have I mentioned that already? An underlying thought, in all seriousness again, it creeps into my mind about how I could follow that video up. How can I retain the attention of the people watching me? How can I convince them to revisit this channel? What can I do with this current wave that I'm on, and how can I continue it? I've gotten a lot better at managing that feeling and just this channel in general, but that thought still does persist from time to time. Which brings us to the boy. How do you even begin to follow up something like this? The amount of thought that would have had to go into the first video if it was made on purpose would be insane. This was made by accident. Like, where do you even start thinking about how to make another one of these things? It's pretty much inevitable that you're going to fail to meet those expectations, because those weren't the expectations that you were initially aiming to reach. And that brings us to the second video, aptly named Just Listen to the Song. The boy is aware that he isn't going to live up to everyone's expectations with this new song, so he wants them to listen to it just like they would listen to anything else, to give it a chance. It's hard, but forget that it's the sequel to a massively successful video. Just treat it like it's any other thing and give it a shot. And of course, that doesn't happen. But at the end, the girl sits down next to him, and in a shocking turn of events, she actually gave him a chance. She listened to both songs and came to the conclusion that they were about him sketching her in middle school. And although she thinks it's still cringy, the boy is overflowing with emotions to know that his message actually made it to her. Whether they get together or not by the end of it all, that doesn't matter. It's the fact that someone acknowledged him and gave him and his art a chance that means so much to him. So, to wrap all this up, how does this tie into Fujimoto himself? Well, Fujimoto is the boy. He created a piece of art, Chainsaw Man, that ended up becoming much bigger than he anticipated. His fears of the spectacle come in many forms, such as the pressure of success, the paranoia of being unable to throw away that success and fear of being cursed by a higher power, the feeling of going unnoticed or his message being left behind with the surging popularity of his art, as well as the feeling of nobody giving his art a proper chance in the first place. And so, as he's coming out with Chainsaw Man Part 2, he hopes that people will treat it as any other new release and give it a chance. To not bash it because it isn't more of what they wanted. If you don't like it, that's fine, but don't like it for what it is, not for what it isn't. Me bringing up this connection between Fujimoto and the boy isn't anything new. Plenty of people before me have done the same thing. The reason I'm bringing it up here now isn't just to slowly bring this video to a close, it's also to point out something that I found funny about this situation. Like I mentioned at the start, plenty of fans use this story as a means to further their argument about not looking into Fujimoto's work, to just listen to the song. But in order to just listen to the song here, we couldn't make the connection between Fujimoto or Chainsaw Man in the first place. We'd have to just look at the story for what it is. A boy whose life that was turned into pure chaos because of a song. That's it. I just think there's a funny piece of irony in the fact that in order for some people to prove why you shouldn't look deeper into Fujimoto's works, they have to look deeper into Fujimoto's work. They have to look at things like potential subtext and connections to our real world, things that they claim Fujimoto has never done before. Yeah, I just think that's pretty funny. Even when it comes to songs in general, is the concept of someone looking into the lyrics or the chord progression or anything else about a song that crazy to some of y'all? This is like when Meet the Grams came out and accused Drake of some of the most vile things I have ever heard of, and some people didn't care about it because you couldn't shake ass or smoke hookah to it. And then Not Like Us came out, which covers relatively the same content as Meet the Grams. But now those people rock with it because you can shake ass and smoke hookah to it. Not saying that's everyone, obviously. Most of the success from Not Like Us comes from it being a really good song and also not scary as fuck on top of that. But just know, I know you're out there. And I see you. Also, Drake, what is wrong with you? Why are you this isn't even about the one shot anymore. I just think it is crazy that Drake is actually suing over this song. Bro got his ass whooped so bad that the first thought he had was, nah, no way this is legal. Anyway, that's all for this video. Thank you so very much for watching. The JJK video is still in production. I'm gonna try to get that one out to y'all as soon as possible, so please keep on the lookout for that. I might drop one more video before that video though, just to keep the streets fed until that time comes, because that JJK video will be long, so definitely stay tuned. But I'm getting out of here. I got some more Marvel Rivals to play, man, so I'll catch y'all later. This has been your host on the boat, Sailor, signing off. Peace.